The long tail, aggression, mental health, and relationships. Why spanking shows up later in life. This episode explains why spanking can seem fine in the moment until it isn't, and why the real costs often show up downstream in behavior, mental health, and relationships. Spanking is a trickster. It can look effective in the moment and very expensive later on in life. And that later is what very few people talk about. Because if the only metric is, did my kids stop? Did they do what I told them to do? Spanking can look like it worked. And if the metric is, am I building a peaceful adult with a strong, resilient, flexible nervous system, healthy boundaries, and stable relationships, we must zoom out. Today, we're talking about the long tail, why the cost of spanking will show up years later in their life, like aggression, anxiety, depression, people-pleasing, boundary collapse, poor or no boundaries, relationship patterns you can unsee once you understand them. Quick note, I am not here to shame any parents. I'm here simply to share the truth about a really ingrained pattern that must stop in future generations, and it starts with you and me. Most of us were taught that spanking was normal. It was biblical. It's what you do to get children to behave, to have quote unquote healthy adults. And that is simply a misaligned statement. So many people were told, oh, I was spanked and I'm fine. And what I want to offer to you for your consideration, you might be over-functioning. You might be under-functioning. You might be functioning on the outside and say, oh yeah, I'm fine. You might even be thriving in some areas of your life. And that thriving is compensation for things that you learned in childhood and it's still tripping you up today, whether it's in your parenting, in platonic relationships, romantic relationships, in business, in your professional life. And you can carry a nervous system imprint that is shaped by what, quote unquote, love feels like. This is a deep educational episode. It is about patterns and risk, not destiny. And if this topic hits something tender in you, please take a breath, pause this episode, and come back and know that you are safe here. Hi, I'm Hope Rose. Welcome back to A Transformed Life. This is actually take 2. I recorded a 45-minute episode. I got ready to upload it, and much to my surprise, my mic was not on. And so I'm recording this for a second time. And I have checked twice now to make sure my mic is on. So thank you for joining me for part 4 of our January 2026 series, all about spanking. And if you have not taken a moment to leave a 5-star review on any of the platforms you are listening to, please do so. That really supports our show. This podcast has no sponsors. You are the sponsor by leaving a 5-star review or subscribing to the YouTube channel. YouTube has actually been the #1 platform where this podcast is watched and listened to. So please subscribe to it. It really helps my mission and support getting the truth and the health and the mentorship and the guidance that so many people need in their life, in their world, in their parenting. Today the talk title is The Long Tail, Aggression, Mental Health, and Relationships, why it shows up later. If you are a parent, a future parent, a coach, teacher, or someone simply reparenting yourself, this episode is for you. And please be sure to share it with at least one other person so we can get this message out into the world and into so many people's lives so we can have healthy generations. Let's name this core illusion. Spanking is a short-term behavior interrupter. It is not a long-term character builder. It can stop behavior fast because it uses a primal lever. Pain plus fear equals power. And the real question we must be asking ourselves is this: what did the child's nervous system learn in order to stop or do a behavior that we wanted them to do? An action. Clean their room. Stop screaming. Stop yelling. Stop hitting. Did they learn skills like emotional regulation, problem solving, honesty, repair? Repair is so important. What I've realized in society is that very few people have repair relational skills. The other thing is self-respect. Or did they learn survival, scarcity, lack, loss, like appeasing, freezing, fawning, fleeing, hiding, lying, blaming others, becoming aggressive back? And these patterns show up in adulthood over and over and over again because they started in the home that they were raised in and also through generational misaligned patterns. So many adults are walking around with good kid programming syndrome, and underneath of that is fear-based conditioning. You can hear it in people's adult sentences. I don't know how to say no without feeling guilty or ashamed. I shut down when someone is upset. I assume love comes with a price. I am unable to feel safe in conflict. When I'm overwhelmed, I become sharp. That's the long tail that we're talking about in this episode today. So let's talk about what the research consistently shows in terms of how spanking is so detrimental in a person's life. Without drowning in academic language, psychologist Elizabeth Gershoff has summarized decades of research on corporal punishment, and the pattern is so remarkably consistent. More corporal punishment is associated with less long-term compliance and pro-social behavior, more aggression and antisocial behavior. Translation: spanking may buy immediate obedience, and it's linked to worse outcomes over time in the very areas parents usually say they want: respect, cooperation, and moral development. Now, because I respect you, I'm going to be very direct. A lot of this research is correlational, meaning that we're talking about associations, not a simple spanking causes X in every case. However, when a large body of research keeps continually showing up the same direction of outcomes across many studies, cultures, and context, wise, aligned adults pay attention. Because parenting isn't a courtroom. You don't need beyond a reasonable doubt to choose the safer, more effective, aligned, healthy, respectful, honoring option. The World Health Organization frames corporal punishment as a widespread global issue and links it to a range of negative outcomes, including physical and mental ill health, impaired cognitive and socio-emotional development, poor educational outcomes, increased aggression, and perpetuation of violence. The WHO World Health Organization also estimates around 1.2 billion children experience corporal punishment in the home yearly. And this is another reminder that 3.4 women a day are killed by former or current intimate partners. And every 10 minutes, a woman or girl is killed by a family member. Those are some tragic statistics. And you and I have the power to realign how previous generations have raised children into adults and realign it with mind, body, spirit aligned ways. This is not a niche topic. This is a public health reality. It's also a crisis. 1.2 billion children a year experience violence in the home. We have the power to change this. So here is the uncomfortable truth. Spanking is literally a lesson that tells a child, when I make a mistake, someone bigger than me, pain is used as a tool to get me to do something. And even when you say, oh, I'm doing it calmly, their nervous system still receives the message conflict plus power plus control equals force and obedience. The World Health Organization includes something else that matters. Corporal punishment is linked to increased acceptance and use of violence across society and adult use of violence. This isn't just about your household. This is what society and the collective has normalized over many generations. So let's address a very classic line, oh, I was spanked and I'm fine. And this is what fine typically means. I learned to hide things. I learned to read moods like a weather forecast. I became hyper independent. I became charming to stay safe. I became tough and disconnected from my tenderness, from my innate self. So yes, you can be successful and still have a nervous system shaped by fear-based compliance. That's not weakness. That's adaptation. You have adapted from how you were raised. One of the cleanest summaries I've seen is this. Spanking is strongly linked to immediate compliance. The child stops the behavior or does something in the moment. And it's the long-term outcomes is where the harm really shows up. And if you're listening to this and thinking, it stops the behavior, I believe you. It does. That is the trickster part of spanking. It stops the behavior in the moment because you aren't regulated in yourself. That child activated something in you when you dig deeper. You feel ashamed that they're throwing a fit, quote unquote, in a public place. They're acting, again, these are all similar terms. I don't prefer, I'm just using these as examples of what people say. So like temper tantrum, throwing a fit, testing my boundaries. These are all regurgitated phrases that parents are still using just over the course of time because they haven't learned aligned language. And so I'm using this language because that is what most parents use. However, I like to use aligned language. A temper tantrum, throwing a fit is simply a child that's just dysregulated. They haven't been taught the skills yet in a healthy way that doesn't involve violence and abuse. One of the cleanest summaries I've seen is this. Spanking is strongly linked to immediate compliance. The child stops the behavior, sure. And it's the long-term outcomes is where the harm really shows up. And if you're listening and thinking, it stops the behavior, yeah, I believe you. That is the really sinister part of spanking. And the real question we want to ask, the aligned question is, what did it cost their nervous system to stop? We're going to pivot slightly into the girls and women when they're spanked. We're going to talk, it's going to be a little sensitive here of, the girls and women thread. And let me be crystal clear. This is pattern risk, not destiny. Not every girl who was spanked becomes a people pleaser. Not every boy who was spanked becomes an abuser. However, when you look at the nervous system as a whole, certain pairings can increase risk for certain relational patterns. So here's some of the pairings. When a child receives care from you, food, shelter, clothes, hugs, affection, bedtime stories, baths, taking children to sports activities, to fun parks, to fun activities, and then they also receive pain from you as quote unquote discipline, their nervous system will learn this association that will sound like to their nervous system, love and harm lives in the same hands. And that normalizes harm, abuse, and violence. And this is why so many girls turn into women and they choose with their nervous system, not consciously, abusive partners. And it normalizes harm, not in the brain as a thought, in the body as a template. So later, when women are dating, working, building friendships, navigating power and control dynamics, whether it's in the workplace, whether it's dating, they may tolerate things that they do not need to be tolerating because the body is recognizing this feeling. This is familiar. However, this familiarity is abuse. The reality is that many girls, women are socialized still to be good, helpful, easy, sweet, compliant, polite, don't ruffle any feathers, just do as you're told, apologize for your existence, don't be seen, something's wrong with you, hate your body, hate the way you look. This is a society, collective, feminine issue that we will change in our lifetime. So when spanking enters that picture, a woman, a girl, will learn when I upset you, pain will happen. My job is to keep the people in power calm. Again, don't ruffle any feathers. Don't say anything that would tip over the ship, that would cause anger, aggression. My needs are dangerous. My needs, my wants don't matter. That's why so many women pick the small plate, is what I call it. They, don't sit down for dinner. They're always, rushing around giving, children what they need to eat, and they don't take care of their needs. Even like going to the bathroom, they'll put it off. They hear the body is like, oh, my body needs to use the restroom. Oh, 5 more minutes, instead of honoring the body in that moment. They've been taught that their needs are dangerous, that they don't matter. Saying no creates rupture. So when I don't agree with that and I say no, there is a rupture in that relationship. Again, platonic, friendship, professional. And that person leaves me. It teaches them abandonment and teaches them scarcity instead of abundance. It teaches them I must absorb this discomfort to preserve connection, to somehow get this misaligned construct of love. And that's how boundary collapse is trained, not through one moment, through repeated nervous system conditioning, misaligned conditioning. And again, this is risk, not destiny. And this is where the long tail becomes obvious. As a child, compliance has kept them safe. And as an adult, compliance will cost you your life force, your life vital energy. It can look like this: staying in misaligned relationships too long, ignoring red flags, confusion about consent, especially in sexual dynamics, dating, even in marriage, struggling to identify anger, suppressing rage, and it spills out in other areas of their life. Feeling responsible for other people's emotions. And parents don't often in the past haven't connected these adult outcomes to childhood conditioning because, again, spanking, quote unquote, worked at age 4 or age 7. I really want you to hear me on this. Every time you use spanking as discipline, you're not correcting behavior. You're teaching a relationship. You're teaching what power looks like. You're teaching what love does under stress. You're teaching what happens when someone makes a mistake. We all make mistakes. So the question must become, do you want your child to learn when someone is overwhelmed, they hit, or when someone is overwhelmed, they pause, repair, regulate, and lead with self-leadership and steadiness, with honoring my body, their body. Discipline is not violence hitting spanking. Discipline is coaching, guiding, mentorship. That is aligned parenting. So if this section has kind of stung and hit a nerve with you, maybe you're feeling triggered, I want you to breathe. Pause this podcast for a second. Put your hand on your chest and your belly. Breathe into your belly first and then your chest. You can close your eyes if you're not driving and just pause. Just reflect on your parenting today. Reflect on how you were raised. And it doesn't mean you've ruined your child. It means you're awake, you're aware, and awareness brings change. You now have the responsibility to choose something that is aligned of how you parent yourself and how you parent your children. Awareness will change the trajectory of your life, and that is so powerful. Let's talk about the parent for a second, because spanking, hitting, violence doesn't just affect the child, it affects the parent as well. Spanking harms the child as well as it harms the parent. The Child Welfare League of America has this to say about spanking and how it affects parents. Spanking can feel effective in the moment. You feel strong, powerful. You got the child to stop something or to start something, go clean your room, eat your food, eat your peas. And the parent can feel justified. However, the effects later can show up. That's the delayed invoice of violence. And here are some of the really biggest hidden costs. Spanking prevents you from practicing the hardest and most important parenting skills. Holding a boundary without force, staying regulated while your child melts down, guiding repair after conflict, using teaching words for feelings, problem solving, consistency without intimidation, power, and control. If your nervous system has reached for force in the past, you lose the chance to build leadership in yourself and in your child. And you're not just raising a child, you're reinforcing a pattern inside yourself. When I'm overwhelmed, I use power, force, and control. When I'm overwhelmed, when I feel angry, I'm going to use force to get them to do something because I have not reparented myself. I am not, or haven't, past tense, I haven't had the tools, and I'm moving forward with tools. I am seeking out a mentor, coach, guide to help me in my parenting, personal, professional life, where I have tools, I have resources, and I am becoming the aligned parent I've always wanted to be, what I've needed to be. And again, I'm going to pause here and say and offer this invitation. If you want guidance and mentorship in your life for your parenting, please reach out to me. Mentoring and coaching is one of my greatest joys, to guide parents, individuals who want personal growth in their life. They are no longer satisfied with the status quo of regurgitating, of using things that their parents did, that previous generations did. Please reach out to me. It would be my highest honor to guide you in parenting not only your children, reparenting yourself and giving you the tools and the daily coaching guidance that you need to show up in your life and also in the life of your children and in your community, in your family, of aligned ways. I want to be really honest about this parent experience. A lot of parents spank, and then later on they will feel guilt, shame. And again, the difference between guilt and shame is guilt is I did something bad. Shame is I am bad. I'm unworthy. I'm unlovable. What did I do? That's shame. Confusion, justification battles in the mind, anger at themselves, fear they're failing, so many patterns. And sometimes the shame is so painful that the mind doubles down. We're not going to feel this. I'm fine. My parents did it. I turned out fine. I don't steal, hit, cheat in my adult life. This is normal. And they justify it. And if you have to justify something, then you know you're in misalignment. So if you're listening to this episode and something in you already knows there's a more powerful, aligned, healthy, honorable, respectful way to parent my children and to reparent myself. Your job is not to control your child's behavior through fear. Your job is to build your capacity to feel, capacity to pause, capacity to choose, make an aligned choice. And as you do that over time, you're building your capacity as well. Parenting is nervous system leadership. So here's the reframe. Your child's nervous system is not your outlet for your unresolved, unregulated pain, hurts, hang-ups, anger, rage, power and control, feeling powerful, mighty, and you have to use physical force, punishment, pain to get your child to do something. I believe you want to raise a peaceful, healthy, regulated adult. And so you practice peace at home, not permissiveness, peace. Peace is not anything goes. Peace is regulated leadership plus clear boundaries plus consistent repair. So, what do you do instead, especially when you will become triggered? Not if, but when. Exhausted, late. Your nervous system could be offline. Maybe you've had a stressful day at work. You haven't eaten, and your child is testing, quote unquote, every second of your patience. So here is a simple sequence that you can adapt. Save it, repeat it, tape it to your fridge, put it in your notes section. Number 1, pause your body first. One hand on your chest, one slow exhale, a long, slow exhale. Exhale really helps calm your nervous system. Your child's behavior is loud. You acknowledge that. And your regulation must be louder internally. Name the boundary in one sentence, not a lecture, not a threat, not a consequence, just one sentence. Example, I won't let you hit. Or, we're leaving the park now. Or, I hear you want more screen time. The answer is no. Number 3, you're going to hold the line without adding heat, meaning no consequences, no threats, no timeouts. No, if you don't do this, this is going to happen. If you don't do this, Y is going to happen. This is the rep every single time. You can be firm without being forceful. Number 4, offer a choice that preserves dignity. You can walk to the car or I can carry you. Giving children choices with you as the anchor is super empowering for them. You will notice you will get along much further in your parenting when you give them choices. They feel in control of like, oh, I can walk or I can have you carry me. And it's just simple. It's very regulated. It's very calm. Would you like to walk to the car? Would you like to wear your coat or not? That choice is up to you. I'm not going to come back to the car to get your coat, so you can make a choice now. You can stomp your feet on the ground, or you can hit this pillow, squeeze it. And repair. So many adults do not know how to repair because they were never taught repair when they were a child. Not a long speech, a simple, clean repair. That was hard. You and I stayed within the boundary. I love you, and we're okay. Repair teaches safety inside conflict. That is solid relationship leadership training. I want you to memorize this sentence. Your child isn't giving you a hard time. They're having a hard time. Behavior is communication. When a child acts out, quote unquote, again, acting out is just a sign that they are dysregulated. They don't yet have the tools to navigate their big emotions. They're feeling out of control. They don't have the words. They don't have the tools to navigate them. That is your job, not using spanking, but using regulation, repair, tools, etc. So when a child, quote unquote, acts out, it could mean any of these things. I'm tired. I'm hungry. I've had too much sugar and not enough quality protein. I'm overstimulated. I'm understimulated. I haven't had outside time. I haven't had just free time to play and roam and explore and be creative. I don't yet have the words to explain what I'm feeling. I feel powerless. I feel out of control. I feel controlled. I feel disconnected. Spanking answers communication with pain, and that's not what we want to teach. Connection-based discipline, again, discipline in the sense of leadership, words, regulation, not discipline in the sense that we are using violence and abuse and pain as discipline. Connection and communication-based discipline, teaching, guiding, coaching, mentorship answers communication with leadership. Discipline, again, is coaching, it's mentorship, it's modeling how adults treat each other, how adults treat younger people, how adults treat people underneath of them in terms of, jobs or professionalism. Like there's no hierarchy in society, and yet society has this hierarchy in the collective. So if you're wondering, if you've spanked before, what do I do now? Could be a moment where shame is going to attempt to hijack your growth. No shame, only learning and realigning. So here are some suggestions for you. 1, stop and make a commitment that you will never spank, hit, violence, abuse again. Number 2, you're going to repair with your child in age-appropriate words. I used to spank, and I'm not going to do that anymore. I am learning better aligned ways. I'm learning how to honor your body, your mind, body, spirit, and you're safe with me. 3, build your plan for when triggers come. And this is why having a coach, a guide, a mentor is so important, because you can have them like on speed dial. That's what I do for my clients. They can text and we can audio, voice note back and forth. That would be of value to you. Please get in touch with me. When your nervous system, not if, when your nervous system escalates fast, especially in the beginning as you're relearning these skills, you will need a script for what you do instead of exploding. Step into another room for 20 seconds. Maybe it's a couple minutes. You can splash cold water on your wrist. If it's cold outside, you can step outside. You can text a friend, I need some grounding. Text your coach, your mentor. I'm having a tough time. This happened with my child. I really would like to do this. Breathe low and slow. Pause yourself first and foremost. And then check in with another adult whenever possible. If you are in a husband-wife relationship, check in with the other person. Repair is never weakness. Repair is leadership. Remember, spanking doesn't teach emotional skills. It teaches fear-based compliance. We don't want compliant adults. We want children who grow into adults that know how to think, and they've been taught to think for themselves, not just regurgitated of like, this is what my parents did. This is what my grandparents did. This is what my ancestors did. No, we are teaching them how to think, critical teaching skills. And then the long tail shows up later in aggression, anxiety, depression, relationship patterns, boundaries, self-trust. Goal isn't a quiet child. Goal is a safe, respectful, body-honoring adult. Your child's nervous system is not your outlet for your unresolved pain, anger, unhealed trauma. Your child is showing you where you are not free. So, if you want to raise a peaceful, regulated, healthy adult, you start by practicing this piece in your home. I really hope this episode supported you in your parenting. Please share this with another parent. And we are going to end this violence in our world. And it starts with removing spanking from our home environment. If you haven't yet received a roadmap, this whole series is giving you a roadmap to aligned, respectful, body-honoring parenting for yourself, reparenting for yourself, and parenting for your children. You are the one who is ending the cycle of abuse. You can either be a cycle breaker or you can be a cycle continuer. And I'm choosing to be a cycle breaker where violence stops with me and healing begins with me. And when you're doing the work of reparenting yourself while parenting your child, please hold compassion for how far you've come, for the willingness to change what is no longer aligned with you when you see the truth. If you wouldn't hit another adult, if you wouldn't hit an animal, you certainly would not hit your child. And this is why having a mentor and a coach is so critical in your evolution as a human, as a parent. You're not behind, you're becoming. Again, please leave a 5-star review for this podcast. It means so much to me in supporting my work in this mission that we are going to end violence and abuse in our lifetime. And I'm really excited for all the positive changes that you and I will see in our generation and for all the generations that are coming behind us. I look forward to hearing your questions. I would love to do a Q&A and answer your questions on a future podcast. So please email me and I will do a Q&A podcast on this topic of spanking. Next week will be our final installment of this January 2026 series all about spanking. And I thank you for being here, for listening, for showing up, for doing the work, for making the practice, for navigating a really sensitive topic that is long overdue. And between you and me and how many other people are listening to this, we create the ripples of change, of healing, of health, of hope. And together we will have a beautiful world, a beautiful heaven. Heaven as here on earth. Thank you so much for listening today and for joining me for this podcast. You can follow me on Instagram at Hope Rose Speaks. And I wish you a lovely, beautiful, peaceful, and amazing day. I will see you next week.